In this video, I'm going to talk about the tips and the methods that have helped me get first-time passes so far in all the exams I've taken for my CA qualification / the CPA qualification for those of you in America. Now, I want to emphasize that I am not academically gifted. I just work really hard and I work kind of smart, I guess, for academic glory. But these are all tips and methods based on science and scientific backing and are ways to help you learn and retain information, which you need to do a lot of for this qualification because of the sheer quantity of information provided in these courses. So the first tip that I have is to practice before you're ready, and perfectionists are going to suffer with this point, and that's me. I really struggle to attempt or start something until it's 100% ready to go, until I am 100% ready to go. But because of the time scale that you're taught everything for these exams and the amount of information, it's really not likely that you will be able to learn everything really well by the time the exam comes around. And the tutors actually tell you this at the beginning of the learning blocks, with the pass mark being 50%. They're not even expecting you to know everything pretty well. They're expecting you to know everything a little bit so that you can attempt anything or any topic of question that comes up. So this is huge and is a mistake I made early on in my revision, and after regular practice from my first point, you will pick up on areas that you are like losing marks or not getting as many marks, or you know that when you see the question you're like, ooh. And this is, to be honest, an easy way to filter out the topics that you need to focus on. It was quite hard for me to do personally because I would naturally just focus on the things I found easiest, just because the exams were so hard as well. It was so easy to just, do what you're good at. But because you can't guarantee what's going to come up in the exams, and because of the really wide breadth of topics there are to cover, it's definitely a very smart thing to do to focus on the topics that you know you suck at, because you never want to open up the exam paper, read the first question, feel your heart in your mouth because you know you're not going to do well in that topic. The other tip I have is to utilize spaced repetition. I would watch Ali Abdaal's videos on this because he does a lot of note taking, and it's a different style of exam and course entirely, but the content still applies. Not so much so because the amount of time you have to learn and revise all this information in between first getting exposed to it and the exam date is really short, so you have to do the spaced repetition with smaller spaces. Basically never take time off, and this shouldn't be a stressful point, and I'm not saying to be revising every single day and doing questions every single day, but definitely keep the material at the back of your mind at least every day. And I did this by kind of reading through notes just vaguely, maybe in the morning sometimes before I went to bed, and putting up sticky notes across the flat, and also like rereading mark schemes and things when I had a spare 5 minutes at work. But once you've figured out your weaker areas and have gotten used to practicing questions before you're ready, spaced repetition really does help to kind of bring that information to the front of mind in little amounts and as often as possible. Sometimes for topics that I found particularly difficult or difficult to get my head around, I would just kind of try and apply it to work-related scenarios. And sometimes the content actually did this itself. It did apply it to like a company or a real life situation, but for really technical aspects it can be a little bit harder. So I would just kind of like rewrite the notes and apply it to a fact or case from work, and this would just help me personally wrap my own mind around a certain subject or topic. And I would definitely recommend doing this if you're really struggling to take something in, and it makes the information not only a lot easier to digest but a lot more memorable when you're trying to kind of remember it for the exam. You can kind of remember that specific example that you created in your notes. And the final and genuinely probably the most important tip I have for you is to dive straight into exam past questions and forget about making really pretty notes. And I did this at the beginning of each subject, literally without fail. I would start trying to make really nice like designed notes, even on my laptop, writing things up really well, knowing full well that I was never going to read those notes again, because once you start practicing questions, you get into the style of how to actually answer a question and then what kind of content or like material you should be pulling from. I would also recommend structuring your actual notes around the objectives or like the key things to learn from each topic. Don't just regurgitate every single thing from the content that you're provided, and also be able to evaluate as many points as you can. So know as many pros and cons of everything as you can, because being able to evaluate information is really important in getting like a wider range of marks. So that was a really quick run through of tips that have personally helped me. Not being the most book smart person, it took a lot of hard work and smart revision to be able to pass these exams. Not only just pass them, but pass them first time. And I would highly recommend doing all these things, because this qualification, the quantity of information and the style of exam is really different from uni and other subjects. So yeah, the tips were a little bit more specific, but I hope these were useful for you if you're doing the exams right now. And if you have any tips yourself, please share them down in the comments so more people can get help from them. But yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I really hope it helped. And also good luck if you're doing these exams. Bye!